That first fabric comes from Ag Research, and we had the hunch. So I'd actually started making shoes before that because I was interested in market, because I sort of thought, the idea that there was sort of Chuck Taylors and common projects and nothing in between, like everything had logos on it. I felt like it was a category that was over-designed, and then wool kind of layered on top of that when really asked the question why they hadn't been done. And we applied for a grant from Ag Research. I said, look, I'd love to make a shoe out of wool. And in typical sort of Kiwi fashion, the scientist goes, well, actually, we've been playing around with this fabric for a number of years, and it's a development contract they did with the Australian Defence Force to make a bulletproof wool. And it's woven with Kevlar. It's insanely expensive. They sent up literally a square of this fabric, and they said, well, this might work. And so that blue shoe, we sent it over to our factory in Indonesia to make up into a shoe. And they wrote back and said, we don't want to work with you anymore because that fabric you sent up has ruined all the blades in our factory. We can't cut it. We're just making stuff is hard. I mean, there's two aspects to making stuff. There's making the first thing, understanding exactly what you want to make, and then making lots of that same thing. And both those things are just incredibly hard. There is no secret to the fact it just takes a long time. And I think, one of the insights about shoes is that garments and fashion and making a t-shirt is not hard. Making a shoe, it's an engineering project. There's size, there's fit, there's movement, there's so many different dynamics in play. It's incredibly, incredibly complicated, and I don't think that's something that we realised. I had a vision, I think, for the gap in the market, and I think my strength is maybe seeing that niche and maybe the opportunity, but was never going to be able to kind of grasp the aesthetic to the level that was required. And I sort of shamedly reached out to the people that I knew and said, who's the best person in the country that can help me do that? And Jamie's name came up.
Tim came to me with the blue shoe and was like, I think I need some help. And I was like, I'd love to help. Yeah. Naively thinking, how hard can it be to design a shoe? The only thing I'd done previously was in my thesis project at uni, I designed a shoe. We were introduced and we chatted, and it seemed like it was a good thing, but I always knew in the back of my mind that I didn't want to show Tim the shoe that I'd done at university because it was pretty unusual. Yeah. And it was quite some years later that I actually pulled it out of the box and exposed it to him, and I don't know if he'd want to see it again. I think I'm pretty multidisciplinary. In terms of the breadth of products that I design, it's definitely, we were just talking about the numbers last night, and it's like, I'm comparing to anything else I've worked on, and it's exponentially more. It's by far the most successful.
We didn't know what we were doing, and I think that allowed us to actually break a bunch of rules. We've actually had this wonderful lady join our team, Lisa, who has this immense footwear experience. She gave a presentation on all the rules we were breaking, and we didn't kind of quite know that we were, because we'd never made shoes before. But I think that naivety was a huge sort of powerful sort of weapon for us in hindsight, but I think we needed the high level technical expertise to actually work out how to make it. And so it was only at the end we really found that, and once we did, it moved pretty quick. It was always the joke that we were just sort of, those shoes you see when like someone's got like one leg longer than the other, they're like kind of medical shoes. So we were all like, Jamie, we've designed another medical shoe. We kind of stuck with it, and I don't think what we were trying to achieve has changed. It was always about the simplest form that we could. It was always about wool and comfort, and it was always about sustainability and thinking about the use of natural materials. But the execution of it just took a long time. There's no secret to this stuff. It's just a sort of, I think, a clear insight, and then the courage to keep going, because you laughed at for a good chunk of the way.
For a long part of the time.
For a long part of the way, and then now you're able to create this product that's had this sort of immense sort of success through our first 10 months, and people kind of turn around and say, well, that was easy, and it just wasn't. You just don't nail something like this the first time around.
It's fair to say we started in a running space, wanting to make a performance shoe with wool, and then I think as we started designing, we started to realise that actually we wanted these shoes for ourselves, namely, but also for a slightly different purpose than pure running. We talk about it as the shoe you could run in and go to the pub and have a pint, and then eventually it sort of morphed into just a shoe for just, for whatever activity you felt like, but it wasn't about sports per se. I think that's what's so special about the shoes is they are not polarising. We have broad appeal from 20-year-olds through to my great uncles kind of thing. And it's not many pairs of shoes that do that. We like the idea that these things sort of live and grow and evolve, and that maybe your shoe, if your original wool runner, might actually look quite different by the time we've honed it and evolved it in 2 or 3 years time.
There's a lot of times people will design in a vacuum or in some sort of like in the studio and something works great. I think the thing for us is we had to release this out into the world and get feedback whether we liked it or not. And You don't want to do that all the way through because there's a time for feedback and there's a time not for feedback.
Over my time, I've learned that a good idea will remain a good idea, and sometimes it's about just finding that right time for it or that right home for it. My sense of these things has gotten much clearer over the years. It needed to see the light of day beyond the Kickstarter.
I don't consider us a fashion brand. You know, we've gone out to distill a classic form into its simplest thing. So in some ways there are so many barriers and constraints to what we do. We've stuck with this and we've arrived at a product that pre-launch was, you know, considered unremarkable, and I think we now see that as a huge compliment. You know, we've made something that's unremarkable and we're proud of that.
So there was an interesting process through some of the brand work that was done where we had to sort of recalibrate some of our thoughts in that space, and that sort of fed back into how we detailed things on the product, how we expressed certain things, how playful the product would become.
So we're sort of 25 people now in San Francisco with some different people in New Zealand helping us out, and all our customer service stuff is in-house. So if there's a problem or something, we get feedback straight away and we're able to plug that straight back into improving the product. So that feedback loop is super tight. In the early days it was just trial and error and wear, and my old man would wear a pair and tell me that wasn't good enough, and Jamie would wear a pair and we'd compare notes. I mean, this went on over years and years and years. We're now working with the best people in the world to do what we do. We've got a textile mill in Italy that knits our 17.5 super fine New Zealand merino into a fabric that's incredible, and they do that on a world-class level. We've got a Korean manufacturing partner who is just amazing, but it just took a long time to find them. Without those pieces, all of those things have to kind of work together. I think ultimately as a business, we're making and selling shoes, but I think as an organisation we're trying to really change an industry, and I think that's what we're excited about, that's what we're driven by. Now being based in America and having raised venture capital and there's this Kiwi sense of chipping away, the DIY mentality. An American company would have raised money at the beginning, they would have gone and found the best people in the world, and they would have just done it from the start. And we went on this long-winded, which allowed us, because I think if we'd done that at the beginning, we wouldn't have been as good as we are now. We had to go through that process.
Good point.
But we're now at a stage now where we're scaling and building a business, and we're doing that in the best part of the world we could possibly do it. Like, we couldn't do what we're doing from New Zealand. There is the operational sort of efficiency and expertise. There is the capital, which is not insignificant in helping us scale, build a team. There's now sort of 25, nearly 30 of us in San Francisco, and we're going after an enormous market with a supply chain that's just incredible. There's just so many random things through this journey that you could never have sort of planned for. And Ed O'Neill from Married with Children and Modern Family, I think he was a shoe salesman actually and Married with
He was,
Children.
yeah.
Good point.
He totally was.
Just loves the product. There's been a range of other sort of different, Taika Waititi has been just an immense supporter. And we've become like this sort of shoe of Silicon Valley, and just had this amazing sort of uptake in the tech community that, again, if you were trying to plan for it, you'd never. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of cool things happening at the moment, and I sort of genuinely feel we're just getting started, and we've got a long way to go.